Hi there, this is Deaf to False Music, bringing you honest music reviews from the hills of eastern Kentucky. And since we're on the topic of Kentucky, we are continuing the My Morning Jacket discography. And we are actually on the album that got me introduced to the world of My Morning Jacket, It Still Moves. It came out 2003 on, I don't think Darla Records, I think it was on ATO Records, I'm not entirely sure. I could be wrong. But anyway, this is the one that introduced me to the world of My Morning Jacket, because I was over at a friend's place about a block where I live, and he let me borrow a few albums. Three of them I can distinctly remember. Van Morrison's Tupelo Honey, Aerosmith's Toys in the Attic, and this album, It Still Moves by My Morning Jacket. And I just kind of looked at it and I was just like, oh yeah, these guys are from Kentucky. And it's just like, yeah man, you can go ahead and have that album, I'm not really into it. I'm like, okay. So I brought it home, put on the first song, Megiddo, and I didn't get it. I just wasn't that thrilled about it. I just thought, they're okay. But that's the great thing about this band, is that they're not a band that you can instantly like when the first time you hear them. It takes repeated listens, and they're not accessible like at the time I was, really into Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath and kind of riff-heavy rock and roll from the 70s. And they were more kind of chording and they had weird vocals, and I didn't quite get it all. Then I heard this song, and One Big Holiday, and my opinions of them completely changed after that. I thought this was a great kick-ass rock and roll song. And it's a great album. It just took me a long time to really understand how great this album is. For a long time, this was my favorite My Morning Jacket album. And it's not anymore, but it's still great. All the kind of acoustic stuff from At Dawn has been almost completely replaced. They sound more like a band now, more so than ever. And this is finally... they improve with better production, better songs, a more ambitious kind of sound, and just all around just kick-ass presentation. For starters, the band is more electric than it's ever been. Every song sounds like a band song. It doesn't sound like a demo anymore. The reverb's still there. I think they went to actually a better studio this time and recorded this album. And it's just fantastic. I love that part. It is kind of overwhelming. And it's just a really kick-ass rock and roll record. For starters, this album has some pretty ambitious sounds going for it. There's some brass on a few songs. There's some really awesome breakdowns. And where the last two albums, Tennessee Fire was more vocal-driven, At Dawn was kind of expansive. This is kind of a perfect mix between vocal and instrumental. This song in particular has a great 2-minute coda where they're just kicking ass and rock, just basically soloing all over the place. So it has that kind of great vibe to it. And, Jim James' voice has never sounded better than on this record. He's really soaring above everything. It's just right amount of reverb. And plus, the guy can sing like an angel. And the rock and roll elements is really there. And it's really accessible too. At the same time, they have room to experiment a little bit and with kind of warbly sounds, pedal steels coming and going in the mix. And what's really great about this album is that there's a lot of things going on in the songs that don't quite get your ear the first time. A song like Golden has this beautiful kind of sublime keyboards and mix, and then you have those pedal steels coming in. And of course you got the brass. And it's just a very, very powerful production that, with some things kind of bubbling in and out of the mix. I really like that. It can, 7 years later, this album can still surprise you in many ways. And, as far as favorite songs, obviously One Big Holidays is probably one of my all-time favorite My Morning Jacket songs. Dance Floors, Bengita, Master Plan, Golden, shit, and basically every song on this album is a keeper. There's no real weak links to this album that I could think of. The only thing that makes this album getting a 10 is the fact that they improved upon perfection with Z and Evil Urges. This band, at this point, the band was on a roll and really could do no wrong. So, I absolutely love this album. The harmonies are wonderful. The lyrics are really introspective and otherworldly. The album's and the band's kind of getting psychedelic a little more psychedelic, a little more trippier. Basically with the harmonies and the production and the kind of swirly vibe to it. Songs aren't as long like on the last album, but there are some pretty long ones. I mean, I Will Sing You Songs is about 9.5 minutes. So, it's a really accessible album, but at the same time, it's very trippy, very otherworldly, very surreal, very arty, and it's a fantastic record. So, I'm going to give this one a 9 out of 10. Yes, a 9. It's that damn good. Originality, well, it's My Morning Jacket. I mean, they're a pretty original band, what can I say? I can't really place one band on them. Flow, this album is probably the best I've heard yet. With the exception of maybe Z. Z has a really awesome flow to it. But this is probably the most flow kind of album that I've heard from My Morning Jacket. Everything just kind of fits perfectly into the next song. And some great anthems on this album too. Steam Engine. I just cry whenever I hear that song. It's so wonderful. And this one too is Just One Thing. Great song. So yeah, I give this one a 9 out of 10. It's a fantastic record. One of my favorite Jacket albums. So, this is Deaf to False Music. 9 out of 10. It still moves. Catch you next time.